Ryan had been living alone on the frontier station for a long time. The station circled a quiet world called Arcturus IV, far away from Earth. It was a lonely place, a steel island drifting in the black sea of space. Most days were the same for him. He would wake up early, check the oxygen levels, fix a few broken systems, eat something from a food pack, and then look out at the endless stars. Sometimes he would hum to himself just to fill the silence. He liked to think the stars listened. He was an engineer, the kind of man who worked with his hands and didn't talk much. He fixed things others had given up on. Pipes, generators, cooling units, nothing stayed broken for long around him. But even machines could not fix loneliness. The station was big, but it felt smaller every week. The last message he had received from Earth was months old, and even the communication signals were weak now. One evening, as he worked near the communications deck, he heard the airlock hiss open. He thought it was the usual cargo drone, but the light that spilled in wasn't the dull red of the machine. It was a soft blue glow. He turned, wiping the sweat from his forehead, and froze. A figure stepped through the door, tall, graceful, and not human. She had silver-white hair that shimmered in the air's light, and her skin had a faint glow like the surface of the moon. Her eyes were large and golden, filled with quiet intelligence. Her ears curved upward slightly, delicate and pointed, and they moved gently when she looked around. Ryan almost dropped his wrench. You must be the new xenobiologist," he said, trying not to sound surprised. The alien girl blinked slowly. "I am Lyra," she said in a calm voice that carried a musical rhythm. "And you are the human who keeps this station alive." He gave a small smile. "More or less." She tilted her head, studying him. "Your kind builds with metal and heat," she said softly. "We shape life. It is strange to see someone repair a machine as if it were a living thing." Ryan chuckled. "Machines are alive in their own way. You just have to listen to them." Lyra's golden eyes lingered on him for a moment, curious. Then she nodded slowly. "Interesting." Over the next few days, she followed him around the station. She watched him repair circuits and patch cables, asking small, careful questions. He noticed that she never wasted words. She moved with the quiet grace of someone who came from a calm world, a place where people listened before speaking. He liked that about her. Most people he knew spoke too much and said too little. Sometimes, when he turned around suddenly, he would find her watching him from the corner of the room, her tail curling lightly behind her legs. It should have made him uncomfortable, but it didn't. There was something peaceful about her presence, like soft music filling a silent hall. One evening, the lights dimmed to mimic sunset. Ryan was adjusting a broken vent near the observation dome when he heard her steps again. Lyra joined him without a word and stood by the glass, her reflection glowing faintly beside his. The stars beyond were bright, painting the darkness with silver. For a long time, neither of them spoke. Then Lyra said, "You look at the stars as if they belong to you." Ryan smiled slightly. "Maybe they do, in a way. Back on Earth, I used to watch them every night. It made me feel small but not lonely, like I was part of something big." She turned to him. "Do you miss your home?" He sighed quietly. "Yeah, but I think what I really miss is people, talking, laughing, the small things." She nodded, her golden eyes soft. "I understand. My world is far too quiet now. I came here to study human life because your kind still fights for meaning. It is rare." Ryan looked at her, surprised by her words. "You make us sound special." "You are," she said simply. He didn't know what to say to that, so he just smiled and looked back at the stars. The silence stretched, but it wasn't uncomfortable this time. It felt warm, like a shared secret. As she shifted slightly beside him, her hair caught the light, glowing faintly blue. The moment felt fragile, like glass about to break, and before he could stop himself, the words slipped out of his mouth. "You know," he said quietly, "you're beautiful." Lyra froze. Her eyes widened, and the markings on her cheeks began to shimmer with a soft light. It looked like she was blushing. Her ears twitched twice, and she brought her fingers to her lips, almost in shock. Beautiful?" she repeated, her voice shaking a little. "What does that mean?" Ryan's heart began to race. He hadn't meant to say it. It's a compliment. It means you look nice, very nice." Her glowing markings pulsed gently like ripples in water. She tilted her head and whispered, "Say it again." He blinked. "What?" Say it again, human, she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The word beautiful. Ryan's mouth went dry. You're beautiful, Lyra, he said again, slower this time, meaning every word. Her glow deepened, spreading along her neck. She turned away slightly, hiding her face with her hand, but he could see the corner of her lips curve into a small, shy smile. Strange, she murmured. No one from my world has ever said that to me. We are taught to admire skill, not appearance. Beauty is not something we talk about. Well, Ryan said gently, maybe you should. There's beauty everywhere, you just have to see it. She turned to look at him again. Her eyes caught the starlight, and for a heartbeat, he felt as if the whole universe was staring back at him. Then I will remember it, she said softly. That night, Ryan lay in his small bunk, staring at the metal ceiling. Sleep refused to come. He tried to focus on work, on repairs he needed to finish, on the routine he always followed. But his mind kept returning to her, Lyra, with her glowing skin and quiet voice asking him to repeat the word beautiful. He told himself it was nothing, just a misunderstanding between two species. But deep down he knew it wasn't. In another section of the station, Lyra sat near her lab table, surrounded by glowing plants she had brought from her home world. The soft lights reflected on her face. She traced her fingers over one of the petals and whispered the strange human word again under her breath. Beautiful. It felt warm on her tongue, as if it carried meaning far beyond sound. She looked at her reflection in the glass, saw the faint shimmer on her skin, and felt something new stir in her heart. No one had ever looked at her the way Ryan had, not as a scientist, not as an alien, but as a person. She leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. The stars outside blinked slowly, and for the first time in her life, she wondered what it meant to be seen not just as a life form, but as someone special. On the other side of the station, Ryan turned in his bunk, still restless. He could almost hear her voice again. Say it again, human. He smiled to himself in the dark. Maybe tomorrow, he thought he would, because somehow that small moment in the observation dome had changed everything. It wasn't just an accident anymore. It was the beginning of something he didn't fully understand yet. Something fragile and bright, floating quietly between two worlds in the endless sea of stars. Days passed quietly on the station after that strange moment in the observation dome, but nothing felt the same anymore. Every time Ryan saw Lyra walking through the corridors, he remembered how she had looked when she blushed. He tried to act normal, fixing the usual power lines and calibrating systems, but his mind wandered too often. Whenever he caught himself thinking about her, he would shake his head and focus harder on work. But somehow she was always nearby, asking questions, offering help, or simply watching with those curious golden eyes. One morning, the alarm lights flickered in the main control room. Ryan rushed over, checking the screen. A meteor fragment had entered their orbit, heading straight for one of the station's outer domes. He cursed softly under his breath and grabbed his tool bag and helmet. Lyra appeared beside him, her tail flicking anxiously. What happened? She asked, her voice calm but tense. Small meteor hit the outer structure, he replied. Oxygen loss in the greenhouse wing. I have to seal it before the breach spreads. She stepped forward. Then I'll come too. He turned sharply. No, it's dangerous. Stay here. Her golden eyes narrowed slightly. Humans are brave, yes, but so are the Lyrae. I will help you. Before he could argue, she was already walking toward the airlock. Ryan sighed, shaking his head, but followed her. The corridor leading to the damaged area was filled with warning lights, the air thin and cold. Frost had started forming along the walls. Through the transparent dome ahead, he could see tiny cracks spreading like spiderwebs across the surface. Pressure is dropping, he said through the comm channel. We have maybe 3 minutes before it blows out completely. Lyra placed her hand against the glass, her skin glowing faintly violet. I can slow the leak, she said softly, but not for long. Ryan opened his repair kit and began welding the damaged plates. Sparks danced around them as he worked. His gloves trembled slightly from the vibration. Lyra stood beside him, her energy shimmering over the cracks, holding them together like a living seal. Almost there, he muttered. Just a little longer. But the pressure suddenly spiked. The wall gave a sharp groan, and a small explosion of air burst through the edges. Ryan stumbled backward. The force knocked Lyra to her knees, her glow flickering. Lyra, he shouted, catching her before she hit the ground. I'm fine, she breathed weakly. Do it now. He pushed forward, sealing the last plate with his plasma torch. His arms burned from the effort, but he didn't stop until the red warning lights turned blue again. The air stabilized. The danger was over. For a few seconds, the only sound was the hum of the repaired system. Ryan looked down at Lyra, who was sitting on the floor, her breathing slow but steady. Her skin still glowed faintly in the dim light. You could have been hurt, he said, kneeling beside her. She looked up at him and smiled faintly. So could you. But you didn't stop. I wanted to understand why humans risk so much for others. He met her gaze. Because it's what we do, we help. Even if it hurts, Lyra's eyes softened. She touched his hand lightly, her fingers warm against his glove. You are strange creatures, she said quietly. But on good ones. Ryan helped her stand. The glow around her hands faded as her strength returned. You need rest, he said gently. I will rest, she promised. Then with a small smile, she added, but only after you say it again. He blinked, confused for a moment. Then he understood. You're beautiful, he said softly. Her cheeks shimmered with faint blue light again. When you say that, she whispered, it feels like the stars come closer. For a long moment, they stood there in the soft hum of the restored dome, two figures from two worlds, breathing the same air and sharing the same silence. That night, the station felt different. The usual loneliness that hung in the air was gone. Ryan found himself smiling while checking the reactor levels. Even his reflection in the glass seemed lighter somehow. He realized how much he had changed this place without even trying. Later, he found her sitting near the hydroponic garden. The lights from the alien plants painted soft colors across her face. She was touching a flower that shimmered like liquid glass. Can't sleep either? He asked. She looked up. No, I was thinking about your world. He sat beside her. What about it? About how humans can find beauty in anything, she said quietly. Even in broken things. You fix what others would abandon. You speak kindly even when you are tired. It is rare, Ryan smiled. We're not perfect. But maybe that's why we try so hard, Lyra nodded slowly. When you called me beautiful, I thought it was just a word. But now I understand, it's not just about how something looks. It's about how you see it. He looked at her closely. Exactly. She tilted her head, her golden eyes shining. Then I think you are beautiful too. He blinked in surprise. Me, I'm just an old engineer. She smiled softly. You are human. You carry warmth even in the cold of space. That is beautiful. Ryan laughed gently. I'll take that. For a while they just sat there watching the stars through the glass wall. The universe outside seemed endless, but the space between them felt small and warm. In the following days they worked side by side again. The repairs continued, the routine returned, but now there was laughter. Lyra had learned a few human jokes, though she often told them with a serious face, which made Ryan laugh even harder. Sometimes he taught her Earth words and she repeated them carefully, her accent soft and charming. One time she asked, why do humans give names to stars? Because it helps us remember them, he said. And because we like to believe they notice when we do. Then I will name one too, she said with a small smile. I will call that one Ryan's Star. He looked at her, touched. That's a good name. Every day the bond between them grew deeper, not in a loud or dramatic way, but quietly, like roots beneath soil. They learned to understand each other without words. She started drinking tea because he liked it. He began studying her alien plants because she smiled every time he did. One evening, as they stood again by the observation dome, she whispered, do you think humans and Lyra could ever live together? Ryan smiled. I think we already are, she laughed softly. Then maybe that's enough. Outside, a comet passed by, leaving a silver trail across the stars. Its light reflected in her golden eyes, and for a moment, the whole universe seemed to pause. Ryan spoke quietly, almost to himself. You know, when I first came here, I thought this station was the loneliest place in the galaxy. But now, she turned to him, waiting. Now it feels like home. Her expression softened. She took his hand gently. Then maybe humans are not as alone as they think. He smiled. Maybe not. The stars shone brighter that night. Two lives, once worlds apart, now shared a small corner of space. One human, one alien, both learning that sometimes a single kind word can bridge galaxies. And as the lights dimmed and the station drifted silently among the stars, Lyra whispered one last thing, her voice tender and full of warmth. "Say it again. Human." Ryan looked into her glow.